Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our new webinar in collaboration with Kantar about the long-term brand building impact of influencers for your 2021 marketing strategies. My name is Delphine Benedict. I am in charge of marketing at Territory Influence. I am currently based in Paris, France, while my webinar partners are located in Germany, Frankfurt, and the UK, London. We have a very international teams today. Claudia Gelbe is our media and digital expert at Insights by Kantar, while Josh Woods is our influencer marketing consultant at Territory Influence. We also have on the right side our different client collaborations. So here, CNA, Bayersdorf, Mutti, and Café Royal. So special thanks to those Territory Influence clients that agreed to share their brand case studies and testimonials today with you guys. Before starting, we wanted to make sure we are speaking the same language. At Territory Influence, we have a very large vision of influencer marketing. We believe that the power of influence and recommendation is not limited to a channel. We can stimulate conversations in the offline world about your brand, your product, your service, just as we can boost content generation on social media, also ratings and review on your e-commerce platforms. So our mission is therefore to provide the best solutions, the most relevant influencers, be it nano, micro, macro, star influencers to achieve your marketing goal at the end of the year. So today, that being said, you will learn why you need to integrate influencer in your marketing strategies, how to ensure your campaign effectiveness with concrete recommendations for 2021, so the must-do for next year. And at the very end, we will have a live Q&A. So don't worry, you are all muted, but you can submit your questions at any time throughout the webinar via the Q&A feature. We will take the time at the end to answer all of them. So we will have approximately 10 minutes. Also, for your information, this webinar is recorded. So a file will be sent after the webinar, after this event. So you can then share it with your colleagues or any missing persons that could not attend the event today. Also, you will get our contact details on the very last page. So if you want to continue discussions, you will be able to do so at the very end. All right, so let's start with the reasons why you need to integrate influencer, why you need to invest in advocacy next year, starting with Claudia from Kantar.
Hello, good morning, everybody. So thanks for having me in that webinar. Really excited to share some thoughts. And definitely to answer this question, I would like to start a bit broader. I mean, brands, particularly nowadays, walk quite a fine line in allocating media channel spends. So the question is, how much shall I invest and where? And particularly in this year with COVID-19 and also the soon disappearance of cookie tracking, we are facing this question even more, right? So we see due to COVID-19 that media usage and behavior in our consumers is changing. We see some of the trends we predicted a year ago are a lot. And at the same time, we see from our clients that pressure on marketing budgets and ROI delivery is really increasing. I mean, it also offers quite a lot of opportunities for brands to refocus on rather long-term brand building strategy to survive, let's say, in times of uncertainty. I also said, I mean, third-party cookies will disappear probably quite soon, and we already see some of the disappearances in some of the process, which particularly in the digital marketing space causes us to rethink about media targeting. I mean, how do I actually reach my relevant audiences nowadays? And how do I measure cross-channel ROI? So coming back to your question of both, how much shall I invest and where? If we again think about consumers and how they experience the brands, we know that it's not all about paid media. It's also about owned and earned touch points. I mean, it's about seeing a really cool car on the street. It's about reading a review of a certain product online. It's about watching a TV commercial, really emotional one for Christmas periods, or seeing a YouTube video, right? So we at Kantar, we have evaluated roughly 400,000 different touch points across different industries and countries. And we found that on average, only 20% of all these touch points consumers experience with your brand are actually delivering 80% of your brand equity impact. And the question is then, for you, do you know which are the touch points that matter most for your brand? And our meta-analysis further proves that, really surprisingly, recommendations from friends and families are the second strongest touch point in a mix. They are even more effective than, for example, recommendations from experts, because people trust friends and family much more. And recommendations work across the entire customer journey. I mean, they are building brand associations in the very beginning, in a C phase where I even don't think about buying this product or this brand. They strengthen consideration and finally are also able to push relatively short-term sales. There are plenty of ways how brands can indirectly boost these non-expert recommendations. I mean, for example, free product trials, campaigns who are aiming to create buzz and to really build a consumer interaction with the brand, and of course also using influencers to help boost those recommendations. From our Kantar ad reaction study, we learned that particularly the younger generation really relies on influencers, as they are even inspiring them to try new experiences and products. And you probably noticed that the number of brands who really completely rely on the user-centric content strategies are quite pushing up quite a lot in all different categories. And they are kind of revolutionizing the market. I mean, brands like Hello Body, Banana PT, we call them sometimes influencer brands, and they prove that it is actually successful to run this direct-to-consumer strategies. Now, for you as a brand, as a marketeer, it really provides you a credible opportunity to tap into the influencer marketing, as consumers probably are now much more open and more receptive to this branded content in the online and offline universe. We've run a total marketing ROI modeling, so it's more than just a sales model. It combines actually the measuring the impact on brand and on sales in combination. And we did this analysis for a luxury brand in the US, and this shows out of all these channels the brand is using, so print, influencers, public relation, TV, out of home, etc. Influencers pay off on both, on a long and on a short term. I mean, that's just one case study, yes, right, but it also shows that it's extremely important for you to measure not just the short-term impact of your activities, but also quantify the long-term brand building equity, which is driven by media. And there is another case study from a beer brand in South America. And that was a great 360 campaign for the World Cup. The brand was Crystal Beer, and I mean, they had this completely integrated and well-designed campaign across TV, out-of-home, radio, YouTube, using also influencers. And the idea of this study was to understand the ROI of particularly the influencer piece. We've done at Kantar a cross-media study, which means that we are measuring the impact of the whole campaign, and we understand the contribution of each of the single touch points to build certain KPIs. So you can see on this slide here at the top level the share of investment for this particular campaign, and we see that almost 60% spent was invested in TV, and we had also relatively low budget splits on out-of-home, radio and online activities, so in comparison to TV. And then on the bottom line, we see how the impact is distributed across the different touch points. And we see, for example, that for the equity contributions or the brand objective we want to drive, that the highest contribution is coming from out of home. So 24% of all the impact we measured came from out of home. But we also see the second one is already influencers. So they are contributing by 21% of the total impact. And if you look now again at the budget split, you see that with only 3%, they delivered 21% of impact, meaning that at the end of the day, in this campaign, influencers have been the most efficient channel in the mix. What we also need to know is, though, that not all influencers worked perfectly equal. So there were definitely some influencers who did kind of a better job to drive this. So it is extremely important that if we are working with influencers, that we are choosing them really in a fit to the brand, that we identify influencers who share common interests and purposes in accordance to your brand strategy. So how can we actually then best integrate influencers in the overall strategy? When we look at our research, so we do quite a lot of campaign measurement for a particular channel, but quite often also cross-channel. We still see quite a lot of campaigns running across different channels, and each channel is kind of using different style and tone. So if you put you in the shoes of the consumers, you're actually not noticing as a consumer that this is one story, that these different elements of the campaign are somehow connected, and this is then limiting actually the impact, because we see on this slide that if you build an integrated campaign with a common creative idea, with a common big idea, and then you adapt this idea to the different channels, and you are able to increase your ROI by 57%. So how does it come? How can we actually reach this huge increase in impact building? The reason is quite simple. So imagine all these different channels work together to tell a story. Then we are actually able, from a consumer perspective, if we have a multi-touch point exposure to this campaign, so if we are experiencing the campaign on TV, on online channels, out of home, so across all the different channels in the mix, then we see that this is telling a story, and we sum it up, and 1 + 1 is then 3. So we are building synergies between the different channels. If we come back to the beer case in South America, we are actually seeing that planning for the influencers to work in synergy with the other campaign channels is helping to boost that and to increase the overall impact. And summing this up, I mean, we always say our clients, if you really want to maximize your ROI or your impact on your brand objectives, make sure that you reach the right people in the right context with an excellent creative. So that's actually the, let's say, the triad for success.
Thanks, Claudia, and hello everyone. Yes, look forward to talking you through some case studies now. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of case studies first of all, from our collaboration with CNA, who's one of our brand partners here at Territory Influence. And we've chosen these case studies because we think they really help to demonstrate the added benefits of, one, having influencers in your media plan in general, but two, really integrating your influencers that you work with your other media touch points and having a real consistent concept across all touch points, which really provides the synergy benefits that Claudia was talking about. So the first CNA case I'm going to focus on is for our Style Coach campaign, which was a cross-media campaign in partnership with ADIDAS and Brigitte. And Brigitte is a female-focused 30-plus audience magazine in Germany. And the cross-media campaign really delivered those synergy benefits that I was talking about before. So CNA's objective was they wanted to raise awareness of their seasonal lines, so cashmere products for autumn, festive styles for Christmas. But fundamentally also wanted to not just raise awareness, but kind of relevancy and drive more usage occasions. So not just cashmere sort of to keep warm at home, but, you know, for work, for parties, etc. And so we identified a German macro influencer to be at the heart of each media campaign. So, for instance, one macro influencer for the cashmere campaign. And there we involved them to raise awareness on their own social channels, but also to really join the dots across e-commerce and print media by having a consistent talent and a consistent concept and messaging, with a consistent concept being more than a piece of cloth. So just to bring to life what this kind of looked like, so you can see how all the dots were joined up. So as the influencer was at the heart of the campaign, we helped coordinate with Brigitte and CNA the photo shoot to deliver video photo content for the wider campaign, including an interview with a stylist. During this shoot, the influencer announced her partnership with CNA on her Instagram channel, and then after that, all the content that was generated, the interviews were pushed out to the Brigitte website, to CNA. The influencer herself announced her favourite style from the shoot, had her favourite kind of her favourite items and her favourite occasions to wear them on her personal Instagram channels. And then it was again an advertorial was placed in the Brigitte print magazine, which again had styling tips and actually heroed the influencer themselves and her recommendation. And so I think this just brings to life one example of how having consistent talent and a consistent concept throughout all media touch points really helps to bring consistency and helps to land that message, and also helps to humanize the campaign by having an influencer involved rather than just a push message from a brand. Now just going on to a second CNA campaign, which we helped support deliver, which again brings to life these cross-media benefits, but also we wanted to point it out just because it's, I think, a good example of really bringing the campaign into the real world and into stores, into physical stores with real everyday consumers. So again, CNA wanted to build awareness and engagement about their new baby and kids collection with mums and dads. But fundamentally, they also wanted to really humanize their media and drive actions and engagement by consumers to support the broader campaign and build broader brand equity. So in partnership with Elton, which is a sort of parents magazine in Germany, we put mum influencers and family bloggers at the heart of the campaign. And these influencers, this kind of area of influencers, they have really big passionate parent followings who are really involved in the people that they follow. And so we were able to identify 3 parent influencers for CNA who are based in 3 different major German cities, and put them at the heart of the campaign using a raffle mechanic to win an in-store shopping experience with the influencer in CNA. So just to bring to life what this looked like, so you can see how it all works. So as I said, so we identified 3 macro influencers in 3 different cities, and they offered a raffle to their followers to win a paid shopping for experience of the new products, and they would be in the store with them, really drumming up excitement and actions by their followers, you know, with them participating and applying to be the winner of the raffle. The raffle was also announced in Elton magazine, in print and online, and on their website. They really heroed the actual influencers themselves, and made sure that the influencers were featured throughout those pieces as well. The winner of the raffle then won a shopping experience in store with the influencer, and you can see the photos here. So the influencer posted about the experience on the day, the winner posted, and so did CNA. So lots of content on the day being shared. And one of my colleagues was actually there in the Munich one, and as I mentioned before, the followers are super excited to be meeting these influencers that they really love to follow. So that creates really great content and really fun content, which was important for a category such as baby and kids wear. And then after the event, the influencers and the winners also posted on their channels, and then the whole experience was summarized in an article in Elton magazine and also on online. And so what CNA really benefited from here is that by putting influencers at the core, they really managed to humanize their marketing and really help to drive actions and really tap into the benefit, really tap into these really engaged followers, and really help to build their brand by tapping into these communities. And so just to summarize the results, so the results were really phenomenal. So these are just focusing on the influence results, but we can see we delivered over 2 million online reach with over 12,000 link clicks, so participations in the raffle and visits to e-commerce sites and stuff, and a really strong engagement, which really reflects the fact that it was a really successful campaign across all touch points.
So coming back to that example, I think it's a really beautiful example from CNA. Remember, just talked about this creative idea in the first campaign, and it said something like, I want to let my consumers know that CNA stands for more than just a piece of cloth. So there's an emotion behind, and this is actually the creative idea I talked about before, and how important those ideas are. I can show you on the next slide. So again, we did some cross meta-analysis with our cross-media database, and we identified those campaigns who, let's say, do not have a clear central idea versus those who have. And again, we see that this central idea, it's kind of a clue. It fixes all together and delivers a much higher impact overall on the brand KPIs. Let me try to explain it a bit with another example I really love. That's the ADIDAS case, originals never finished. So this is really yeah, a beautiful story from my opinion. So maybe just to give you a bit background, back in 2015, 2016, Adidas was really strongly focusing on short-term performance. So they decided where to invest quite strongly on this typical digital KPIs. What I noticed actually that maybe it's worth it to reconsider also focusing on a long-term brand growth, and they had like 2 challenges to face with. The first one is actually to shift the focus from reliance on the individual products and markets and the short-termism to a bigger unified story of the originals itself. And on the other hand, you know, once you started to talk about originals back then, it was always connected in consumers' mind with the retro design we all know from the, I don't know if it was the 70s, but you know, this really cool Adidas clothes. But this has a natural limitation, and they wanted to achieve a repositioning of the brand, of being more perceived as fresh, as ambitious, having a holistic point of view on the street culture. So, and they started with this idea, saying, good, let's use the world's most overdone track ever from Frank Sinatra, My Way, yeah, and I think you all have now in mind kind of the melody. And they pushed it so far that it started to become new again. So they remixed this song, and they asked a lot of influencers and musicians to join this story and to interpret the My Way as they feel it, and made a fantastic universe of reinvented new Frank Sinatra songs and melodies in all possible different music styles. So they rolled it out on social media, on the Grammys, on different events, and they also have done a campaign on TV and online social media channels in a couple of markets. We at Kantar, we have tested this campaign assets to understand if they have the potential to really work on the brand KPIs and to differentiate the brand. And we see here an output of those. So quite important KPIs for us to understand if we are building an impact is, for example, to look at involvement. How engaging is this campaign for the viewers? And we see here, for example, this involvement KPI. It scores within the top 14 of all ads we've ever tested. Also, if you look at distinctiveness, so it's quite unique in its appearance, connected to the brand, and it created a lot of buzz. At the end of this campaign, I mean, what did the consequence of this? Wasn't just that we've seen a shift in brand associations, but we have also seen in those markets where this campaign was live, and 45% of uplift in sales. What is important is, apart from this creative idea and a really emotional story, is that whatever you're doing, and it's true for influencers, but it's actually the same story for your whole marketing mix, always think about how connected, how involved the brand is in the story. I have a favorite phrase I always say, look at your campaign and answer this question: is the brand the hero of this story, or is it, I don't know, another person or another feature like a dog or a child? So who's actually the hero in this ad? And the answer must be the brand. So otherwise, it's really difficult to link this campaign back to your brand and achieve a shift in your brand associations. There are ways of boosting this, let's say, branded engagement, and it's a kind of establishing consistent brand cues. We've done again kind of a cross-check analysis. So which are the brand cues, the signals to identify your brand which are driving, for example, differentiation. And you can see here on this graph that they are highlighted in orange, that particular celebrities, but characters in general, really help to boost this differentiation. If, of course, if you build a long-term relationship with those characters, and if they are at the end of the day really associated to your brand.
So indeed, characters and not only those celebrities are important differentiators. So at Territory Influence, we have defined 3 other categories. So nano influencer, basically consumers who love to recommend products, your brand, your services to their own personal networks, be it offline like your friends, families, relatives, or online channels like social media, for instance, but also ratings and review, like we have said earlier, with e-commerce or review specialized platforms. You also have micro influencers. So those are the content creators who can actually generate organic, but also paid reach depending on brand collaborations, depending on values and what we can offer as a brand, to super engaged online communities. So those are very, very distinctive in terms of like engagement, involvement. And then you have the macro influencers, so professionals who have a powerful audience, so over 100K followers, maybe millions of followers on specific or lifestyle topics, can really depend on their expertise, and produce premium brand content. So we really have those 4 categories to work and to play with as a brand. And no matter the audience, so be it a few hundreds like the nano, or thousands like the micro, or millions like the macro, authenticity is another key to success we have to have in mind for your next year campaign content. Brands really need to let go and trust influencers, those content creators. They are the experts of their offline network, for maybe the word of mouth, having the key messages after education, dialogue with the brand, but also online communities. They know best how to address your target group. They know best what style in terms of visuals, in terms of videos, or in terms of even editorial tone might be including mistakes, but that's okay. If they are used to speak that way, their subscribers will actually trust and follow. So of course, there are brand mandatories like official hashtags to track your campaign, or discount codes for your online sales, or even swipe up link to drive some traffic to your digital ecosystem. But in general, it's super important to allow influencers to respect their identity, their way of expressing themselves, and also for a question of credibility with their subscribers who know them by heart. You really need to trust them. So we have actually the perfect case for that topic, trust, with Café Royal, a Delica brand. This case study happened in France after the launch of their new product range. Actually, they supported that launch with that influencer marketing campaign being a teaser. So before activating other marketing activities such as activation in store with POS materials, or having visibility actions on their brand website or on their official brand social media, they activated a couple of macro influencer marketing to talk about the innovation and to also strongly make their engagement towards Honduras visible. So they have a double objective in that specific context of product launch. This campaign happened this year in May, July, so right before the summer launch, so right before the fact that products were available on shelves in France. They really started to first dialogue with their influencer via our agency Territory Influence. So we had to first really pass on the expertise and really work on this engagement, making sure also in terms of selection that the brand and the influencer matched in terms of values, in terms of interest, and also because of the engagement part was super important, we had to select an influencer with very involved communities on Instagram. So basically we had to follow this 5-step process. So first recruit those profiles, then make them leave a premium experience at home. So sending them the products, the product range, having a briefing, allowing creativity and consistency. So again, the brand really wanted to trust the content creators to allow this effectiveness we were talking about. And then of course, the agency made sure that in terms of follow-up, everything was on track. So deadlines were respected, posted were live at the right times. And finally, we came to an analysis and measurement phase. So those were 6 influencers we selected in France with different type of audiences. The bigger one was Caroline Receveur, which is actually one of the most famous influencer in France. So she's part of the star influencer category. And then you have a bunch of macro star influencer from 600K to 200 average with different styles. Again, some were pretty much experts and others were more lifestyle. Here, really what mattered for the brand was the engagement. So engaged community interacting a lot with their influencers, and really the interest, the values, and this willingness to share the engagement towards Honduras. As you can see here in the results, it was pretty impressive. So we reached over 1 million impressions online on Instagram only. So only that social media with those 6-star and micro influencer profiles. We had a over 13% engagement rate, which was impressive versus the initial average rate of 6%. So we have doubled the average thanks to this interaction, thanks to this authenticity, this credibility, this process, this briefing that allowed, again, content creators to express themselves with their habits, with their, with their skills, and again, followers know them by heart. So it was just a logic storytelling, which came very, very naturally with moments, sometimes in the breakfast or sometimes in other moments during the day. So very naturally. So Aline, the marketing manager of France at Café Royal, really insisted on this trust aspect. She said here in her testimonial that influencer marketing relies on a strong relationship between communities and influencers. The latter include trust. The same trust must also, in my opinion, be part of the approach that brands have with influencer campaigns, expressed through the creative free will given to influencer. Therefore, success operates as in a non-virtual relationship with an affinity choice of people at the start and a climate of proximity that grows over time. So we are back here in the concept of humanizing marketing, humanizing communication, and trust is really at the core of that concept.
That's a really cool story, Devin. And I think what it tells us a bit that, or what we need to watch out is that you really need to choose the influencers carefully. And I mean, what we also have seen in our research is that the biggest is not always the best. I quote, I think, a last case also from the Kantar world, from Russia this time, where we looked into 2 specific YouTube videos from influencers to understand how they perform in terms of the typical influencer KPIs, let's say from a performance perspective, but also on a brand impact. And the client was asking this question because we noticed quite quickly that the first video had 1.5 million views, and the second one 26 million views. So you could say that the second video is the much more powerful video because of the huge reach. If we look then at brand KPIs, and we've done context lab measurement, so-called, so we are measuring in context the performance of single videos or stories from influencers or posts and compare them against each other. So we've actually seen that the video with the, let's say, less views had a much bigger impact on image associations for the brand. Looking a bit more in detail, the first influencer managed to really integrate the brand in the story he or she was telling in the YouTube video, and really brought across what the product, what the brand is about. And so it turned out that the one with the smaller views, let's say, had a bigger impact on the brand. So big is not always best. And it brings us practically to the next topic, and probably I mentioned that quite a few times. it is important that you first think about what is your brand objective, and is it brand building for new products, so building awareness, or is it shifting a certain image, or is it really increasing affinity, or do you want short-term sales? Whatever your brand objective is, choose practically which strategy fits most for you.
And just to build on this, so I think when choosing which influencers to work with as part of your influencer activation plan, there's always a balancing act between kind of individual reach of each influencer, so macros having obviously the largest reach, but then also engagement, with nano and micro influencers tending to have more engagement from their more niche audiences. And so we can help advise on the best ones for your different marketing objectives, but I think often by default for some objectives we might think of macros being the best. So for instance, for an awareness campaign or a total reach campaign, by default you might think, okay, we should work with macros, big scale influencers to support this. But in fact we know that actually complementing macros with 5,000, say 10,000 nano influencers, or maybe even replacing those the macros with those nano influencers, can deliver the same amount of reach. So having one macro influencer could deliver the same reach as total reach as 5,000 nano influencers, but the stronger engagement and credibility and authenticity of those nano influencers could actually have a bigger end impact on your campaign. So it's not, sometimes with awareness you might think macros are the best, but actually, we've got experience of working with nanos and delivering really strong results as well. Again, another example is when thinking about sales. Oh, sorry, Delphine, just go back. When thinking about sales from influencer campaigns, you might think about commercializing macro posts and having swipe up links and discount codes within macro posts, which do definitely work. But for more, say, physical products, for more products which are available more in bricks and mortar, actually we have lots of data and results showing that large nano campaigns, where you give nanos the opportunity to share products and samples and coupons with their friends, can be really an effective way of driving in-store sales. So they're just two examples I wanted to give to talk through, but macros are very effective, and we love working with macros, but it's we can help advise on they're not always the most, they might immediately be the one you first think of, but actually sometimes macros and nanos can also really complement them or even replace them. And so just to bring a couple of to bring that point to life with a couple of case studies. So really want to focus on the power of smaller scale influencers, with this first case from Mutti, which is an Italian food brand, historically famous for making tomato sauces, but they wanted to enter a new market with pestos, which were 45% healthier than standard pestos. And so what they wanted to do was they wanted to work with us, and they wanted to deliver, brand awareness for the product at launch, really educate within the target group about the benefits, and in particular it being as good as competitors but healthier, essentially. They wanted to generate genuine taste-based recommendations, so conversations, and explode share of voice on social media through UGC sharing to Instagram and other social media channels. So we recommended working with 3,000 nano and micro influencers to do that. So to really work with these smaller scale influencers, but a lot of them, to deliver massive tastings of product and recommendations to their friends and followers to try. Importantly, targeting was super key here for the brand. So it was really important that who we identified and who they then spoke to were foodies, that they were health enthusiasts, that they were pesto lovers, that they were lifestyle focused, and that they were active online, so that we were really identifying the right team of nano and micro influencers to enable powerful and genuine and credible advocacy. So we identified them, we gave them product to try, and as well as product to share with their friends, and we controlled and inspired the team via a dedicated microsite where we encouraged them, for instance, to host dinners for their friends, where they could where their friends could try the product, and then they could have genuine conversations about the benefits of it and really have those credible, authentic conversations over the dinner table that were really helpful for the brand. And then of course we measured and analysed the results afterwards, and those results were like phenomenal. Like, we were super happy. They exceeded our expectations in terms of the content, in terms of the reach online and offline. It was a really effective campaign, but also from the feedback from the brand was obviously they loved that, but it was actually the quality of the content. It was the quality of the content from both the micros and the nanos, which really impressed them, and was a really strong aspect of the campaign. And so the campaign, the brand really benefited from being able to tap into these really credible, authentic, everyday people who love to cook. So when working with nanos and micros, you know, it can be a big bang campaign, like one-off campaign like that, to really help support a launch. But also with other brands, we actually have a more long-term sort of approach, a more annual plan approach to activating influencers, including nano and micro influencers across the year. And I've got a BioStore case here to really help bring that to life. So with our partnership with BioStore, throughout the year we've supported different products which have sort of different seasonal relevancy, which with different influencers and with different objectives over the year. So for instance, we've supported different Eucerin products, which is for more medical skin conditions like eczema and kind of acne, and then for Nivea, they're more kind of cosmetic products. But for these different moments in the year when different products might be more seasonally relevant, we've been able to identify about 500 influencers each time, nano and micro influencers, and then giving them different experiences and different objectives depending on what the priority is for the brand. So maybe one has been more offline focused, so driving, you know, product sharing and offline conversations. Others have been more about sharing to social media, and others have been about you know, driving ratings and reviews and getting ratings and reviews for those products on e-commerce sites, which we know are really powerful. So it's been a varied approach throughout the year, but if we just go to the results, we can see that we've, you know, from these 11 different campaigns, we've involved actually 4,000 nano and micro influencers over the year, which as an aggregate has delivered over 4 million impressions online, 500,000 conversations, and really great content about the different products within the BioStore range. So it is possible to think about not just individual, you know, immediate awareness campaigns, but to think, how can we involve nano and micro influencers to really support the business across the year.
Thanks, Josh. It's time to give you a quick summary of our marketing recommendations for the next year. So the very first one is give each channel a clear role in your media mix, and really work on your complementaries. That's very important. So our Café Royal marketing manager also told us that you need to be clear about your marketing objectives, especially the influencer objectives, and to consider that particular channel as a trusted third party, and to really think it as a long-term human relationship. So again, we are back in the humanize your communications and really leverage influencers to give credibility, to give authenticity to your brand message, then leading to a better conversion and to a better reach in terms of targeting groups. The second one is create media synergies with that central idea Claudia was talking about, also coming back to the CNA case with that concept. So that's also a key to success for your brand next year. So whether influencers are integrated before, like the teaser of Café Royal, or at the core of the campaign like CNA, supporting the overall campaign, or after as a reminder to work on your top of mind, it's super important to have a consistent storytelling. So also please do not forget that you have lots of options regarding influencer marketing, so you can activate those nano micros Josh was talking about. You also have the star and macro we have seen earlier with Café Royal and CNA. So Also plenty of channels, offline, online, and online. It's not only about social media, you also have rating and review, blog, forums, and plenty of platforms. So really leverage on those options to boost your overall campaign performance next year. And don't set limits, don't have restrictions, really activate what is the most effective lever for you next year to achieve your 2021 marketing goals.
Yeah, and the last, let's say, recommendation we would like to give you is measure what matters. We have seen that views might not be the answer, or clicks. It's measuring if you achieve your brand objectives, whatever they are, and measure them in an integrated way. So meaning if you want to understand if this specific influencer is doing the right job, so is impacting your brand in a positive way, do so, but also consider to measure your influencer activities in combination with all the other channels to understand what's the contribution in the mix and how they create synergies between channels. We are partnering with Territory Influence to deliver you that proof. So for your campaigns, to enable you not just to look at the click rates and the reach, but also understand if you're reaching your brand objectives on the single or the cross campaign measurement.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, actually, everyone, for your time and attention. It's time for the live Q&A. So we have received a lot of interesting questions in the chat. You can also keep submitting your questions. We will collect them and we will answer a couple of them. We have 8 minutes left. Again, if we are running out of time, we will be happy to continue the discussion. Sorry, after the webinar. You have on that page our contact details, so Delphine or George can be contacted on helloinfluence@territory.group, and you can write directly to Claudia in here at kantar.com. So do not hesitate, and I will start picking up a few questions. Actually have an interesting question regarding the most important touch point, so that will be for Kantar, for Claudia.
I knew that question was coming. So no, thank you. It's actually TV, the most important touch point still. We can think differently about TV, and we know that it's often asked if TV or linear TV is still worth it. I mean, TV in this sentence means the whole bunch of TV, including addressable, connected TV, whatever. Why is it still the most important touch point? Because it is really a learned format. Where you can transmit emotions, you can tell a story, and we still get quite high reach, independent of all the strategies. So TV is that, yes or no, and COVID-19 has just proven that, yeah, we might again rely on TV.
Great. Talking about TV, we have this question regarding the leveraging of influencer content. So we have seen during the webinar that you can easily leverage content on digital or print, like on the CNA case study. We also have plenty of cases regarding TV leveraging with adding claims, for instance, at the very end of your ad, with maybe X% recommend that product, of 9 out of 10 women say blah, blah, blah. So we have those nice and ready to be used content, quotes, so verbatims or even claims that you can reuse to also, again, bring some more authenticity, credibility to your brand message, humanizing your communication with, again, easy, quick leveraging. So it's not only for the digital or the print world, it also makes sense and works super well with TV. You can also have interview or recorded quotes on radio ads. You can have out of home also with claims printed on out of home creation. So it's really limitless, and we can show you some extra case study after the webinar if you are interested in that. We also had a quick question from Andreas regarding the first two cases, how many followers we had for the influencers selected. So for Café Royal, I've shown that page. So it's from 200K to 3.6 million for Caroline Receveur. CNA, it's over 100K, so approximately in average 130 to 160K. So it was really like macro influencer, so over 100K followers in our definition at territory influence.
Or if you also refer to the Kantar cases, where we have seen the particular, I remember that one from South America, where we have seen that influencers contributed the most cost efficiently to brand. So I checked that out. I do not have all the details, but in this campaign, they used around 6, let's say, smaller influencers. Delphine, you tell me, it's they had on average like 65K followers, so it's not the big ones. And they had also, I would say, a macro influencer, which with much more followers in the mix. And it were the smaller ones who had a better fit to the brand at the end of the day, for example. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, 65K followers would be micro influencer in that definition, but again, from 50K, you really have super professionalism in those categories. So, and they can be paid for sure for that number. So yeah, that would be paid professional micro influencer according to us. Also have a question, I think, for Josh regarding the deciding factors between choosing work with a couple of macros or choosing to have lots of nano influencers.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of deciding factors in there. I think the first thing I say, what we often see the best results is when you have macro and nanos together, because macros can really act as a cheerleader for a campaign and really help to motivate and bring out the best in the nanos. They have someone to, lots of nano influencers want to be bigger influencers, and feeling like they're part of a campaign with a famous macro really helps to build performance. I guess when we tend to recommend, if there's a choice between the two, we would tend to recommend macros more maybe if you're really interested in having that image transfer, so having that kind of talent and being able to benefit from that. Also, I guess, just thinking very basically, but like, say for instance, if your product is expensive, if you can't send out, hundreds of those products to nano and micro influencers because of the layout cost, then you would maybe prioritize macros. But I think, as we mentioned, if you're there, when it comes to nanos, like nanos can do a lot of the jobs that macros can do, but I guess another deciding factor is the amount of control you're willing to give up to your influencers. Like we saw with the Café Royal example, you can have really amazing results when you trust your influencers to do a great job for you. But if protecting that brand safety and protecting what's going to happen is really important, then obviously we can't provide the same level of control over 1,000 nano influencers as, say, one macro influencer. So that would be another deciding factor. If, say, you have particular brand guidelines that you really must keep to, then you'd maybe choose a macro over a nano. But there's loads of different factors that come into it. So yeah, we would of course help you help consult on that.
Perfect. And let's continue with you, Josh, regarding the new social platforms like TikTok, maybe Twitch. How do you see those developing? And maybe then Claudia can continue with the short, long-term impact if you have any case studies or studies regarding those new channels.
So yeah, TikTok obviously really is growing massively, and we're supporting brands with TikTok in the UK and across Europe. It's obviously a new channel, we're still like learning, but I think it's really where you want to play, especially if your product is more Generation Z focused. It's definitely somewhere you want to be. It's harder to commercialize, so Instagram, it's really easy to commercialize those swipe up links. It's also harder to predict what's happening on TikTok. You never quite know if a video is going to go viral or not. So it's a more unpredictable platform. But when you get it right, I think the benefits are massive. With Twitch, that's also, I guess, a growing platform. It's also quite difficult to get right in terms of making it authentic and you know, enabling the person you're working with to do a really good job on your behalf. But when it does go right, it's really strong and really powerful. Again, if you're trying to reach a target audience, if you're trying to reach a younger audience, or not to generalize, but a more male audience. It's not all male, but like if there's particular target groups that you want to go after, then Twitch can be powerful. But yes, is more tricky than Instagram to get right from a brand perspective, I'd say.
Claudia, anything regarding those channels? Any insights, studies coming soon that maybe we can release in 2021? You're muted, Claudia, sorry.
Referring to TikTok, TikTok was named as the strongest media brand in this year by Kantar worldwide, because I mean it really was ranking first. So it is an important channel to look after, that's true. But I wouldn't say go there where you think it's cool. Go where your audience is, definitely. And secondly, again, think about your creative idea and choose the channel mix accordingly. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Claudia. We have so many questions now popping up. I guess we are running out of time. What I can offer is to answer those questions and to integrate them into the next email you will receive with the webinar replay and the deck as well, if you want to come back on some specific case studies or facts, insights from Kantar. But yeah, we can definitely answer all of them. So advising you on how to choose the right profile according to age of your target group or the numbers, so the volume to make it successful. Or we also have opinions regarding virtual influencers or the relevancy of having offline influencer campaign or word of mouth campaigns during the pandemic and lockdown. So many topics, super broad. So thanks everyone for your interest, your time, your participation. It was a great webinar, and we will keep in touch in the following hours, days, sending you all the materials. And of course, we will remain at your disposal if you want to continue the discussion, if you have specific briefing, if you want help, recommendation, support for next year, also to measure those upcoming campaigns with Kantar. They have so many options, solutions to measure effectiveness, brand equity. So yeah, let's keep in touch. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again, everyone. And yeah, let's make your 2021 brand plan more effective. Let's keep in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.